What is up? I am Miguel Antonio, and this is the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. On this episode, we have Kaleb Unger. He's a children's author with a book coming out in 2021 called A Birthday Cake for Danny. In this book, he breaks down the true story of teaching his daughter Melody, who was 9 at the time, about her brother who was stillborn at 26 weeks. It's a heavy topic. We dive into concepts of grief and dealing with loss, and you see two grown men covered in tattoos start to cry. It's an emotional one. It's a powerful story, and it was great hearing from Kaleb. I hope you guys enjoy the episode.
The Live and Create podcast.
To start with is our previous conversation. We don't have to recreate the same conversation because that would be awkward.
You're referencing peanut butter on a burger.
I am referencing peanut butter on. So break down what you do with peanut butter and Five Guys and why people need to know this.
This is vital
important.
Information.
Yeah,
yes, this is important. We should make a PSA with this.
It's going to be. We're just clip it right out. PSA. We'll tag Five Guys and it'll go viral.
What is that? Pound sign? Tic-tac-toe board?
Yes.
Is that what they're calling it?
That's what the kids call it.
The tic-tac-toe board. The pound sign.
My oldest is in the back laughing at me. He's like, 2 dads making dad jokes. Jesus.
You have to make dad jokes.
Yes.
It's like, why do gorillas have big nostrils?
Why is that?
Because they have big fingers.
No, that's good.
That is a good favorite dad jokes. My 5-year-old, she's 20 now, but when she was 5 years old, my niece told me that one. Just asked me straight up, why do gorillas have big nostrils, Uncle Bubba? I was like, yeah, that's a good question. She goes, it's because they have big fingers.
See, it's perfect.
Brilliant.
I made a dad joke on the Insta story before we rolled in because Trey, for those who are watching this, our oldest is in the back. And he's 16. He's super cool. And I made a joke about #dope. Showing it. See, he's not even laughing. So he's behind the camera, not even laughing.
He's doing the groan nod. Yeah, he did that.
Anyways, back to peanut butter. PSA.
Yes.
Break this down.
When I go to Five Guys, I take a little peanut butter with me because they don't have it as a condiment. Don't know why.
Not?
They should.
They got jalapenos.
Yeah, they've got A1. They've got A1 sauce.
Yeah.
They got Frank's Red Hot. Why not peanut butter?
Exactly.
So I get the regular cheeseburger. 2 patties, cheeseburger with bacon.
Yes.
And all I haven't put on it is raw onion, pickle, and mustard.
Okay.
And then I go to the table, unwrap that juicy, delicious bad boy, add the peanut butter.
Love it.
Put it on the burger.
Okay.
And it kind of melts, gets creamy, it mixes with the tanginess of the pickles and the mustard. It sounds weird.
You're actually selling it pretty well.
It's
to be
delicious. I learned it from a crazy Minnesotan fishing who did it on a hot dog bun with Polish sausage, just peanut butter and mustard. It changed my culinary repertoire.
So you guys heard it here first. You need to put peanut butter, unless you knew the guy he knew from Minnesota. You heard it here first. Put it on Five Guys. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Every burger joint should have peanut butter as a condiment. This needs to be a thing.
So other than culinary arts, you're diving in a whole bunch of different things kind of in life, right? You're a dad, you're a musician, you're working at a gun shop here in town. I forget, you told me the name.
CR Sales,
right? You've had to put up with texts from me trying to find weapons, those kind of things.
It.
So yeah,
that's what I'm into, man.
You're trying to help out everyone. Yeah. But something big has been happening. I even saw kind of you sharing about it on social media and kind of this journey of you publishing your first book.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so
the first attempt at publishing, and it got picked up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's super huge. Now, so let's talk a little bit about just the book itself. Like, what's it called? And kind of unpack the story of it. It's a very powerful story.
It's called A Birthday Cake for Danny. My wife and I, 10 years ago, on May 4th, May the 4th be with you, experienced a loss of a child at 26 weeks. She gave stillbirth, and it was horrible. And a year later, discovered she was pregnant again, and my wife, Lois, being a librarian and the insane researcher that she was, went on a rampage searching for any kind of book that talked about losing a child, and didn't really find much of anything and came up with a brilliant idea to what she wanted to call a family book, not just a kid's book, but make it accessible for kids to look at and make it, digestible. But just talking about, hey, this new child, our second child, you're never going to get to know your brother, because we lost him before you came along. And the way we believe, someday we'll meet him again in heaven, and that was a lot of the gist of it too. So I promised more myself, but I also, in a way, promised her that I would finish it. It took me 9 years. About 3 years ago, just woke up in the middle of the night and finally put it out on paper. Those 1:30 a.m. Okay, it's perfect. I got to get it down.
So you started if I understand, you started working on it, and for about 3 years, but all of a sudden, at one moment, it all came together.
It was about 6 years molded in my head. Eventually, I'll get to it. Raising an extremely premature daughter, there's not a lot of capability to put her down and start doing stuff. And I wasn't in the frame of mind at that time to really work on it.
Yeah.
But about 6 years after my wife passes away, about 3 years ago, I finally get it on paper, and then started arranging it, moving it around, wrote out on sticky notes, okay, what do I want to do for this page, that kind of thing. And then started searching for an illustrator, and that was impossible, it seemed.
Really?
I had people like, oh, I know this guy, or I know this girl, or I know this person, or I know that person, neglecting some of the people that I could have, not even thinking that Ben, being what he does, he could have illustrated it.
Right.
Whoops. Or have him lay it out. But randomly got introduced through to a person that my mom worked with years ago.
Okay.
Who's Amazon published a couple books, and I loved the illustrations. They were unique, never seen anything like it. I was like, that's pretty good work.
Especially for a topic like this, for a children's book or family book, as you're calling it.
Yeah.
Having someone unique could be incredible.
Yeah, just give it, it's definitely not traditional.
Yeah.
As far as the illustrations go. The way his name's Nicholas Caesar, the way he illustrates is, it's some of it, I don't even know how to describe it. It's cartoony, but it's not overt, I guess. But it's unique. I've never seen anybody illustrate the way he does. When I finally got a hold of him and told him what I wanted to do, he was like, oh, yeah. And within a few minutes of me sending him the text, I start getting messages. Hey, check this out. What do you think of this?
Yeah.
Here's this book. I was like, we haven't even talked about cost. He's
like, no,
this needs to be done. This is a topic. I guess he's got a lot of family who've experienced this kind of thing. And he's like, I want to do it. I want to make it right.
Yeah.
And he did. Within 48 hours, he drew 36 drawings.
Damn. So you went from not being able to find any illustrator to an incredibly well-motivated illustrator who is passionate about the project, which, like my experience working on different artistic endeavors, you want that passion.
That fire. Yeah. Absolutely. And then he sent me the last ones, and I was like, that's awesome. And he treated me very well, and how I compensated him and whatnot. He was very fair. And then found a layout artist. She did it within a day.
Damn.
I was like, okay. They're both very passionate about it, wanted it done. Because they understood the topic, the need to be able to address this and talk about it. Because people don't really talk about losing a child. They don't grieve it. They don't process it healthy in any way, shape, or form. And they may do it in some capacity, but then they don't talk about it again.
Yeah.
And
it's like we discussed this. This is where we're going to leave it. And we'll move on, even though it follows you throughout your entire life.
You will never forget that. It's an experience that leaves a mark on you that is, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to use impacting or, it's a lasting mark. You never forget it. It's a scar.
Absolutely.
And there's some families that lose 2, 3, 4 children.
I can't imagine. I have a friend who lost 2 children in a house fire.
Yeah.
And I speaking to him after that, I have four boys, and I couldn't imagine. It
changes who you are when you lose a child. And some people get to know their kids and lose them. Some people always have that, what would this kid have turned out to be? Who would this child have been? We named him. I mean, his name was Danny. That's why it's a birthday cake for Danny. My wife wanted to every year bake him a birthday cake and release a number of balloons of how many years old he would be.
Well, what I find in the grieving process, I lost a sister when I was younger. She was 3 months old. She died of SIDS. And, but I noticed I actually didn't grieve it. I was 3 or 4 when it happened. And I didn't start grieving into my 20s, which is very odd for me. But a lot of it was that, like the dreams, the hopes of what they could have been, and imagining the life that they could have had, that we could have had together. And that's sometimes it's the hardest because we didn't know. Like, she was only 3 months old, but you have all these dreams packed up. Yeah. And when a child's on the way. Yeah. So,
I had a friend from high school. I took my daughter to Children's Mercy for a surgery. She had to have one of her cochlear implants taken out because it got exposed and infected. Okay. And once it's in, that's it. It's got to come out. Yeah. And then she had to go back and have another one put in. But while we were there, I run into Rusty, and their daughter, Luna, had just passed away. She had caught some kind of nasty flu. I think she was, I don't remember how old she was. I don't want to quote it. But they had started to get to know her. You know, and I, in a way, I can relate with him, but I never got to know Danny. Right. But they started to get to know Luna. And I love what they're doing. I just saw this. They collect birthday presents for her, and then they turn around and they donate them. Oh, wow. I think they give them through Children's Mercy, if I remember correctly. And every year the pile gets bigger. And I was like, that's a beautiful way to remember your kid. Absolutely. That's awesome. That's a family who has grieved it, who has processed it, but now they've turned it into something amazing. Exactly. And I imagine each step of that each year becomes even part of the process. So continuing to let go, continue to remember and celebrate. Exactly. And that's the cool thing, is the remembering. Yeah. You know, because a lot of families, apparently they just wash it away, and they don't continue to remember. They try to forget. Exactly. And that's not the right way to do it. Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, what I discovered for myself. It was more of a thing of just push it away to where eventually it just came, like I had to pull over on the side of the road and like a flood of all these emotions that I didn't even know existed. Yeah. Which it sounds like your book might be a great way. Even, well, I'm curious. So for Melody is your daughter's name. Yep. How has it been, like, this journey for you? What's it been like for her? Has she been part of the process, part of the writing process for you? And like, how's that been affecting her? Melody's an incredibly unique child. We all say that about our kids. Right. Melody definitely is. She, if you look up unique child in the dictionary, there's Melody. Her disposition is very different than most children. And a lot of what we've learned about how her brain developed as she was so premature, and apparently there's some genetic stuff from, I think it's her mom's side, my wife's side, their connective tissue disorders and whatnot that didn't allow her, there's parts of her brain that didn't develop completely, they're different. But she asks questions, but she doesn't really process emotion. But she started to ask me what the tattoo about Danny was one day, and a lot of the book is based on the conversation I had with her. Oh, okay. So in a way, she inspired it. Yeah, she was the one that kind of was the catalyst that made the writing finally get finished. Gotcha. And it was an interesting, as I recalled the conversation with her, her questions were so genuine, you know, like, because she wants to know why everything happens. And she wants to get down to the nuts and bolts of, and she asked me directly, so why was my brother born different? Wow. And I was like, I don't know how to answer this. Yeah. You know, but it made me really sit down and think about it and really process it, you know. What actually happened? I was there, I know what happened, but I hadn't really processed it. And I was like, I said it was just one of those things that her body wasn't able to support the baby. Right. Her body just couldn't handle it. That's why we lost the first one. That's why we lost Danny. But the reason Melody was alive and survived is because we had experienced that before. And Lois knew exactly what was going on with her body and got herself to the hospital immediately. Oh, so you had similar issues with Melody going into that. Danny was the result of what they call a placental abruption. Okay. It just detaches from the uterus and suffocates, cuts off the baby from all life support. Right. And if you don't get the baby out in time, it will die. And at 26 weeks, it would have been dicey for Danny to be in the NICU, but he could have lived. I mean, we saw the Melody did. Right. She was born at 23 weeks, 13 ounces, 10 inches, tiny little bitty translucent baby.
That's wild.
It was insane. That entire summer was, and insane is an understatement.
I can only imagine too, like how soon was that after Danny had been born?
A year.
Okay,
Because we lost Danny on May 4th of 2010, and Melody was born May 21st, 2011.
so you're only a year past that, which I can only imagine. And then looking 3 weeks younger, right?
Yeah.
She's 23 weeks at this
She
point.
was 23 weeks.
And then going through that. How long was she in the hospital?
186 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Almost 5 months.
Yeah.
She finished her gestation in a NICU, in an isolate incubator, whatever you want to call it.
And my understanding of the story is your wife had passed away.
Well, here's that Lois survived the entire duration of Melody being in the NICU.
Okay.
Her goal was to at least get home, the three of us as a family, and she achieved her goal.
Yeah.
We took Melody home on October 5th of 2011, and then October 11th, Lois went to the hospital for the last time. And then it was just me and Melody after October 15th. Yep. Which, not just me. I mean, I've had a lot of family support. It's been an interest.
But as far as
yeah, it was just
your
me
family.
and Melody. Yep.
Yeah. So you and Melody have already grieved and kind of journeyed through a lot of things at this point. And how old is Melody now?
She's 9.
9.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So by 9, she's experienced life in, in ways, even it sounds like her own health issues that most people may not experience throughout their entire life.
Yeah. She's lived in 9 years what a lot of people probably go through in 50.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, in my 38 years, I've lived a lot too.
Sounds like it.
And even since then, there's been a lot that's happened with our family, but we all have our stories.
What are the conversations been like? If you don't, it's a little bit off from the book, but with Melody and processing with her losing her mom as she's been old enough to grasp that.
So one of the really cool things that Lois did before she passed away, I had no idea what she was so fervently working on, but anytime we were at home, if she wasn't, and even when she was on dialysis, she took the laptop with her, and the last week or so she was alive, she was feverishly working on it. And finally I saw her hit the enter button and goes, "It's done." I was like, "What's done?" She goes, "You'll see." I was like, "Really?" She goes, I can't explain it right now. I was like, okay. And I kind of left it alone. And a few days later, she went to the hospital, and I didn't get to ask her what it was. And we did her memorial service. About three or so weeks after she passed away, package shows up in the mail. Can't remember which company it was. One of those online companies where you can make your own book. And she wrote a book called Mighty Melody from her to Melody to explain the whole adventure of being in a NICU.
Wow.
And all the pictures that we took, she put it in this collage book and wrote, the story of Mighty Melody living in her giraffe and, and all.
What was that like for you?
Like it is right now. That woman was amazing. I miss her every day.
That's as powerful as she was able to leave that behind for you and for Melody.
Yeah.
Even
That's
what
been
she's
a lot
going through.
Yeah. And to sit there with Melody and go read through it, she can tell you the whole story now.
Yeah.
Of her being in what they called the giraffe and at Overland Park Regional, and that she was born early and that she was born in a special way and defied odds. Every doctor said that she wouldn't live. And Lois and I were pretty shocked that they even asked us, "Do you want us to try to save the baby?"
Wow.
We're like, "Well, yeah."
Because they just felt like it's such a long shot at this point.
Yeah, and we're like,
Damn.
We don't care. We've already lost one. We got to at least try with this one.
Like if there's 1%, there's 1%. Let's fight for it.
Yeah, see, if it's 0.01%.
Right.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Jim Carrey.
Yeah. What are the odds? 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance?
Man, yeah, that's so And I do remember, wasn't Melody on a billboard for a
She
while?
has. Yeah,
Or,
she's still got a poster. Any of the St. Luke's, any of the health system, there's a Go Life campaign.
Yeah.
Her poster's still one of the most
because I remember
popular.
driving one time, I was like, wait a minute, I think I know her.
She was on the cover. We were the cover story of Health magazine, and it's her holding her little guitar and rocking out.
That's right. That's wild, man. So, did you guys? Well, no. This is your first book, a birthday cake for Danny,
Yep,
right?
a birthday cake for Danny.
Do you plan on publishing Melody's book, or?
Well, I've entertained the idea of doing like a little series anyway, called Mighty Melody,
Right.
and taking her from the NICU, and then doing the cochlear implants, learning how to hear.
Yeah.
At a year and a half old, almost 2 years old, before she could even hear, and then how to learn how to talk and catch up, and there's a potentially, maybe.
Yeah. I feel like it could be a very powerful series. And because I think about, like, I was a 3 or 4 year old kid dealing with losing a sister, and I know I'm one of millions who, like, it's probably not as common, but there's so many people in America, that you're going to see that. I could see that being a powerful thing, even maybe a story of, I don't know all the context of the story she wrote, but even the story of, and your wife was Lois, right? Of Lois's passing, and maybe even writing that book and leaving behind that legacy. It could be, I don't know, I think it could really help a lot of people grieve and wrestle through a lot of things.
And that's totally the point of this book, is to get people to talk about it.
Right.
Because that's the biggest aspect of grief, is talking about it. If you don't verbalize it, if you don't vocalize it, it doesn't really become real. And even if you're doing it in your heart, in your mind, whatever it is, unless you get it out,
Right.
it's not going to happen.
It makes me think of Central Intelligence, the real emotional movie with The Rock and Kevin Hart.
So emotional.
Where Kevin Hart is talking to The Rock, and I've kind of like a man crush on The Rock, so anything The Rock.
Dwayne's the man.
Yeah, he is the man. But Kevin Hart's talking about dealing with his emotions, and he's like, no, what you need to do is you need to put in a little ball. Just stuff it down deep inside where no one hears from it again. That's
the opposite, but
right.
But yeah, that's what a lot of people
do. It just eventually erupts somewhere. It's going to come out
in some capacity.
Yeah, and for what I notice in my own grieving process, I don't know if it sounds like you dealt with grief in a lot more healthy way than maybe most, but I noticed physical
I learned
things
from mistakes.
From it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, it not dealing with it the right way when we lost. Well, before we even lost Danny, my wife's dad lost a nasty battle with pancreatic cancer, and he was only 52 years old.
Wow.
And Lois was real close with her dad, and then right before that was when we had lost Danny.
Yeah.
Our son, and so we did not do that in a healthy way at all. I mean, I'll just be all straight up honest. We should have bought stock at Jose Cuervo.
Right.
That summer after we lost Danny, she and I, we drank a lot of tequila.
No, I get that.
And it was easy. It was definitely the wrong way to do it. And thankfully we had people get in our face. I was like, guys, what are you doing?
Let me pull you out of this.
Stop it. I mean, your glass recycle bin is full of 175 bottles. What's going on here?
And that's a piece where I think it manifests itself somewhere. Yeah. In often just destructive ways.
Very destructive, unhealthy ways. I mean, I'm grateful that people didn't let me slip back into that. I mean, I did kind of go the wrong direction right after Lois died for a while, but not as heavy and as hard. But somebody finally told me, are you ever going to stop not dealing with this?
Right.
I was like, good question.
You're like, you know what? Right now, I don't know. So,
what do you do when you're 29 and your best friend dies, and now you're at home with this tiny little fragile baby who turns out to not be as fragile as I thought she was? But she's
leaning into the mighty part.
No. Indubitably. You should watch that kid take on a steak and potatoes.
Yeah. She's like 12, 15 ounces. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So.
I thought she was going to eat the whole Casey strip I put on her plate the other night. I was
That's
like,
awesome.
Really, kid? And she keeps cutting it up. She goes, I'm taking the rest for lunch tomorrow.
My 8-year-old eats steak like that. He wanted steak, was begging for steak. He was out with my mom, his grandma, and she's like, fine, I'll get him a steak, but I'll probably have to finish it. He like tore through that steak, ate some of her steak, and ever since
where do
then
they
he's
put
like,
it?
more steak.
Yeah.
He gets mad because I'll have steaks for lunch sometimes, and because that's like pretty much all I eat, and it's like just meat. And he's like, why can't I have one? It's like, it's my lunch, back off, you know?
I had 2 flashes. This is ridiculous how much TV is in my life. You remember Andy Griffith?
Yes, it's been a while. It's been a while.
I remember a scene where Opie, they ask him what he wants for dinner, and he goes, meat.
I mean, of course, the carnivore diet's something
Totally.
like I'm almost doing unwittingly for the most part. I try to sneak in a salad every once in a while.
Or an apple, maybe.
Yeah, well, no. It's jalapeno. Basically, salads are an excuse for ranch dressing and jalapenos. That's
fair.
really what I want, but I feel like I got to mix in some greens or something
So
with
maybe
it.
a little bit of carrot slice in there or something.
Yeah, just to
Maybe some mushrooms.
feel no mushrooms.
no,
never,
oh.
never mushrooms.
Oh, wow.
They ruin things, in my opinion.
No,
But
fungus are great.
no.
At least more for me, it's fine. But then the other one was you would say, no, this is mine. Back off. Reminds me of Joey from Friends. Joey doesn't share food.
That gets brought up at our house all the time because even my wife and I were dating, and Trey was floating around here.
He's sitting at the moment.
Because
He's not floating.
my 2 oldest boys are my stepsons, and so she already had them, and he's I think 6 at the time, and I had no kids coming into this dating thing that I was doing, and we get dinner, and he starts grabbing food off my plate, and
You're
I
like, I will
looked at
stab
her
you.
and looked at him, and I'm like, what are you doing? You cannot do this.
No, this is Miguel does not share food.
Yes, it's kind of my thing, but
No, I get it. Yeah, go prison rules, huh? Hover over it,
I've had to learn to back off a little bit, and then I learned when you go eat Indian food, everyone shares.
Yeah, sharing is caring. That's
it's hard to get through.
I've watched some shows. Andrew Zimmern. I think he was the Bizarre Foods.
I don't think I know that one.
Oh, but you'd probably dig it.
Okay.
But he was in somewhere. I want to say it was Somalia, maybe. I don't remember. But one of the things is if it's all off the big plate, and if the host, the mom, whoever it is that's in the house, puts it in your mouth, you have to eat it.
You just eat it.
And she picked up this piece of this like sun-rotted sausage that they consider a delicacy, and he knew what it was. And he's
It'd be
like,
better
okay.
if you didn't.
And he accepted the look on his face when he accepted it. He was like, okay, I get it that sharing is caring, but
Did he actually finish it?
well, he had to.
Oh.
Well, he didn't want to be rude.
That's true. There's some things I've tried to eat and I just couldn't even do it. It's like I got to bolt out of here. Got to go.
Have you ever been in the room when somebody cuts open a durian fruit?
I don't even know what a durian fruit is. What is that?
I think it's from Indonesia or somewhere. It's an Asian fruit. And
Okay.
when you cut it open, it smells like farts.
Yeah, I don't need any of
People willingly eat this. I'm not sure why.
that. I went to a friend's house once when his mom was preparing chitlins, and they were soaking, and I was like,
Don't look in the pot.
"Whoa,
Don't
whoa,
look in there.
Can't do this."
It's like when they're boiling a beef tongue. Don't look at it.
Yeah, none of that sounds fun. But
Beef tongue is actually delicious. It's like the most tender roast beef you've ever had.
oh man, but you
But
saying
don't
beef
be-
tongue,
Beef tongue.
it makes me not want to go near it. I just
fair.
don't want to do it. So now with the book, so most people like do the self-publishing thing, all that, but you actually have a publisher who's working with you with the first book. So
Right.
can you unpack that and
So-
what's that journey been like?
It's been a bizarre one. First publisher I submitted to, I didn't know that they didn't do children's books.
Oh, okay.
And I called them, said, hey, just curious. I sent this in a few weeks ago. Didn't know what you guys thought. The lady says, it's lovely. You did a great book, but we don't do kids' books. She goes, but I'm willing to bet somebody will pick it up, so keep going.
Nice.
It's like, well, do you still have it? I know a lot of publishers will just trash what they don't take. And she goes, I'll send yours back to you. That's cool. Because Ben printed out on pretty nice paper, like a rough copy, if you will, of it.
Right on.
So I was like, okay. Started doing some research, put out, questions on social media, how to do this, what do I do? And one person was like, yeah, do the self-publishing thing. It's real easy. You can go to this website that'll link a hard copy and a digital copy to Amazon, and there you go. Boom, you've self-published. I was like, okay, we could do that. I asked Ben about doing some kind of promo video. And it's like, that's one thing I could do. What are the top 30 publishers? Google searches, there's amazing amounts of articles on it. Found out to get to like Random House or Scholastic, any of the big name publishers, you have to have a literary agent. And to get one of those, you have to somehow get another publishing company that's not one of those big names to publish you and get noticed.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of vanity publishers out there that'll like, oh yeah, you pay us $10, we'll print out this book for you, and you have to pay $10 a copy, and you can do whatever you want with it.
You're like, so what you're saying is, I don't need you, is what I just heard. Thank you, publisher. The music world has a lot of people like that. We're like, we just got signed to a deal, but I just noticed we're still paying for everything.
Right.
So what are we doing here?
Right. I'm paying $9 for every CD I'm printing. That's not. I thought you were supposed to pay for it and then distribute it and let other people pay for it.
I'm promoting it. You're not. Okay. So
so this really isn't a record deal.
Right.
Yeah, been there too.
So publishing world has a little bit of that.
Yeah, there is a lot of that too. And then there's like a step in between, which is Covenant Books is one of the options, and that's who picked this up.
Okay.
Where there is a little investment from the author. It's relatively minimal. Mm-hmm. They have connections to Ingram, and I can't remember the other distributor, and they will distribute it worldwide.
Nice.
Every English-speaking country, and apparently there's options to translate. It's like, cool. They also do print and ebook on Amazon. They do print and ebook through Barnes & Noble, and then they do ebook through Apple.
Okay, so they kind of got all the pipelines.
They've got all the pipelines rolling.
Okay.
Which by myself, I have no way of getting into any of those avenues except for maybe Amazon alone.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And they put together a promo video as well. They put it on their website. They'll link it to a bunch of social media. They allow us to share it to. They help, with the editing and the layout. Even though mine's already done, they're like, oh, so we don't really have to do much work here.
They're like, we like
cool. So what it was generally going to be an 8 to 10 month process to get it all put together, get it printed, and get it out and available could conceivably be a lot less time.
That's awesome, man.
So
what's the target date now?
We haven't talked about that yet. I just got in touch, or the agent, publishing agent just got in touch with me yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, so it sounds to me sometime early next year.
Awesome, man.
I'm hoping by spring at the latest.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, wish I had a copy to what is that?
We don't do the whole Jimmy
self-plug.
Fallon thing where they're like, here, it's right here.
Hold there for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I could point and say, look, there's the cover right there.
Yeah, actually,
Can you
we'll do that. Ben, who's
By
behind the camera working his magic.
Camera work,
Right here.
the cover of the book.
Right here. There it
Vanna
is.
White it.
Beautiful. All right, there. So, man, you've been through a lot.
Life has
Right?
been an interesting adventure, to say the least.
Now, so I'm curious then to hear, when it comes to this idea of live and create, like at this point where you're at, the journey of hope, the journey of loss, and now this new journey of sharing that story with many other people. When you think of living a great life, what does that mean for you now?
That's an excellent question. Living a great life, at least for me, is waking up every day grateful that I'm still alive. I have my daughter, and I get to enjoy every moment I can with her. That's when I think of great times, when I think of the things that bring me the most joy, or the experiences I've had with Melody, and the thought of what we can potentially get to do. Say this book does take off, and I get to go like on a book tour, and I could take her with me.
Wow, that'd be cool.
How cool would that be?
Yeah.
And that kind of just gives me tingles and chills, thinking, I could take her to see the Grand Canyon and stop in Phoenix and do a book tour show, or, go up to the Great Lakes and we can see, Wisconsin and Minnesota and even Ohio.
I guess.
They got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's true.
Hit Cleveland.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah,
it is pretty cool.
I do want to see that. I've never been there. Take her to Yellowstone. Those kind of all the places I got to go as a kid with my parents. I'm thinking now that's the good stuff. Get out there,
Right.
live your life. Don't be stuck on your phone or your video game, what have you. there's too much to enjoy, why not enjoy it?
Yeah. I love that idea of gratitude. I feel like I've heard a lot of different people talking about that recently, and I think especially a year like 2020, where it's like there is a lot of things we can focus on that aren't great and need to be dealt with, but at the same time, there's a lot of great, like the beautiful things, like where, like right now I have the opportunity where I'm at home most of the time with all my boys and my wife, and I can't remember a time that's been like that. With either I was touring or I was working like 80 hours a week or whatever it was that kept me away, where it's like, no, there's a lot of blessings, there's a lot of things to be grateful about in this time. So that's awesome, man. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to kind of expand upon it. Yeah, that because we had this lockdown, it gave us all this time to get outside and go check out nature. You can go walk around a park and you can social distance real easy.
Right.
Get out in the woods, get out on hiking trails.
For some people, social distancing, they're like, cool, I didn't want to talk to anybody anyway. Right. So let's get.
I hunt. I've hunted for a long time, and one of my hunting friends, he goes, dude, we were the original social distancers.
That's true. So much so you wanted to hide to where no one could see you.
Yeah, we're sitting in a camo tent in the woods, away from everybody. What's new?
That's awesome, man. It's a cool idea to think about Melody traveling around with you doing that as well.
I think that'd be awesome.
For what I've been fascinated with, so like in touring, I've been meeting like younger artists who are like 19 and 20, and them talking about their influence of their parents on what they're choosing to do now. As far as like, there's one guy a friend of mine now named Nav from New York.
Cool.
And he has a poem about his father and how his father's example led him to like that very stage that he was performing at. And so it's cool to think what that's going to do for her, seeing you, even if the book goes somewhere, if it doesn't, even part of that process, how that will affect her and help her see the world in this new way. Like, I can create things, I can do things, I can impact people. And that's something I think a lot with my boys, like me being home more, they see me playing music. Like two of the boys started a YouTube channel, like doing all this stuff. And it's like, and even like with Trey, I think he's in the back doing work now, but he's doing virtual school.
He's actually doing something.
It's like he does a lot of, he's very involved in like political activism and using social media for that, where he actually learned social media a lot in some ways by being with my band when we would go tour, those kind of things. So I think it'll be cool to see, 10 years from now, this journey, how it impacts her, how she sees life. So
that will be exciting.
And so the other part of it, live and create, creating things.
Yes.
And now you have this thing stamped now, getting ready to put it out in the world. What does it mean to you at this point to create great things?
Regardless of success with it, just the completion of a project, seeing the final thing come together, be done, like you said, stamped. It's gratifying. It's rewarding in itself to know that you did a thing. It's like, I did the thing.
Right.
Here's the thing. Be it a book, be it a painting, be it a YouTube series, be it an album, be it a podcast, to create something to put out in the world and have your name on it that will never be taken away from you.
Right.
That is yours. And you get an ownership in saying, I put a mark on the world, be it small or large. This is now out there. And there's not a lot of people that do that.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that hard. It's the motivation behind it that gets you to go, okay, I'll do this.
Right.
You've created music, you've made albums. That process there's a lot of fun with it too. Yeah, there's headaches, there's arguments, there's bickering, there's amongst yourself even, like, do I really want this to sound this way? Or do I want this sentence to be read this way?
Usually those are the worst arguments for me. So
the
it's
ones
like,
where you fight yourself.
you suck. No, this,
guy off my shoulder, stop it. But yeah, it's rewarding. To be proud isn't necessarily the right word, but you get that self-accomplishment, and
So in
This
a
is
sense,
great.
like creating great things is really just the process, seeing the process through to completion for you.
Yes,
you know?
yeah, to complete it and go, awesome. Now what?
That's awesome.
And that's
like
where the
that.
ideas of the Mighty Melody series are coming from. I've had a couple other suggestions of things to do too. My uncle
can
Doug's
just
like,
keep
"Hey,
throwing.
can I just feed you ideas and actually you write the book?" I was like, "Sure." He's had kids' books ideas his whole life apparently, and I was like, "Why have you never done it? Do it."
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And that's what I actually have a friend who reminds me all the time. His name's Evan, and he'll say, because I talk about good is the enemy of great, is this idea of I want great things, right? But he said, but sometimes great is the enemy of done, and done actually makes an impact.
That's true.
And it's
Yeah.
like, and he constantly reminds me of that. It's like you put that in the world, and as an artist, most often we're never happy with it 100%.
We are our own worst enemies.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But then it's like you can never get to the next thing if you don't finish this piece. And then you
Right.
figure out it becomes this whole work or this whole ecosystem or a whole series that creates impact. And then if you hold it, if you save it in a hard drive, it
Yeah.
does no good for anyone.
No,
So,
you got to put it out there.
yeah.
Yeah, like you were talking about all those videos and the interviews you did.
Right.
Doesn't do any good sitting on your laptop, man.
Exactly.
Let's finish it and get it out there. So then now you can move on to the next project.
Well, awesome, man. I think it's awesome that you're on this journey. I think it's some powerful subjects that most people don't want to touch. And I think it's important for people to wrestle with. And I know the suffering loss at a young age, even for me, is a big deal. And it still impacts my life now as a 40-year-old man.
Yep.
But you giving people tools to wrestle with it in their own way is pretty awesome, man. So
thank you.
thanks for making the time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'll
This is
definitely
a lot of fun.
give a heads up when the book comes out. And awesome, man.
I
Thanks for sharing your
appreciate
story.
it. Thank you.
That was good, man.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create Podcast.